We all know that education is important, really, really important. But in this country, in Canada, education comes at a cost. And it can be a huge challenge for people to afford to go to school if they don't have the savings or the scholarships or the bursaries. This is an area of focus for the Wealthsimple Foundation. And today we're going to talk to its chair. Leen Li is the chair of the Wealthsimple Foundation. We're going to talk about some of the barriers and some of the ways over those barriers that exist for so many Canadians. Leen, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Bruce, hi. Thank you for having me.
It is a huge deal for people to afford post-secondary education, and it is something that's not accessible or easy for all Canadians. Talk a bit about some of the barriers that so many young people face.
I think there's a few barriers that young people face, particularly in Canada. The very first one we have heard about it is actually the high tuition. So the tuition is quite high right now across the country, and it's unaffordable for a lot of people, particularly for people who actually want to go to a different city, right? So tuition is really high, and then along with the increasing living expenses. So I think that's kind of the first barrier in terms of like the affordability on the tuition, and then kind of the housing perspective. And the second one is we actually haven't talked about is actually the opportunity to actually have a good paid jobs while you're at school. Right? So you can actually see the stats. I can't remember the numbers, but actually the unemployment rate for youth and young people are increasing across the country. That meaning that a lot of people who actually used to depend on part-time jobs to pay for part of their school is no longer having that opportunity.
Wow. Yeah. So you're engaged in this question and sort of dealing with or addressing some of these challenges in your role at the Wealthsimple Foundation. Most Canadians know what Wealthsimple is. It is a huge financial technology company. They've really brought the old robo-advising concept to Canada. I didn't know they had a foundation. What's the foundation? What's the mandate? What's it all about? How's it funded?
Yeah, so we created the Wealthsimple Foundation about 4 years ago with a purpose to help make education accessible across Canada. So we are a registered charity in the country. So education is such a big concept and topic. What we do is really focusing on kind of the financial aspect accessibility for education. So narrow down to 4 programs that we're actually doing right now with the Wealthsimple Foundation for the last 4 years. The very first one is to help Canadian family, particularly living on modest income families, to actually apply for Canada Learning Bond, which is part of the RESP program. Yeah. The second program is really consuming to actually teach people about personal finance and how they actually manage finance at the early days to save for school and have a better financial life in the future. The third one I calling out is we're actually teaching people how to file tax returns themselves. This is a life skills I think is really important for Canadians. I learned as immigrant how to file taxes. So that's one skill I want to teach people how to file taxes themselves. The very last one we're launching right now is in the pilot stages to actually grant bursaries and scholarships to students from modest income families to pursue post-secondary education.
So a lot of great ideas. A lot of great ideas there. I want to come back to number one, because a lot of times, if people have even heard of the RESP at lower levels of income, they're like, yeah, but what's in it for me? I don't have $250 to qualify for the maximum match. I think we need to correct the myth here that that's not the only reason to sign up to open an RESP.
Yeah. One of the biggest barriers that like preventing families from opening RESP in the country from our research and government research and then our community work is actually the myth is I need to put my own money into the RESP account in order to get government matching. That's incorrect. So in Canada, for families who are living on modest income, once you open the RESP account, every single child within your family actually can get minimum $500 up to $2,000 in this grant called Canada Learning Bond. Right? So I think that's the benefits to serve as kind of the kickstarters for the families who actually live on modest income to say, now I have a tool for my kids, for my children to actually start thinking to go to post-secondary. And this is kind of starting point. And this is interesting.
I don't know if no, sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead.
So interesting stats to share that, the Canadian government has shared the stats, and we actually from the Wealthsimple Foundation work, we found the kind of the stats as well, very consistent. So for every single dollar a government gives to an RESP account in Canada Learning Bond, the family will actually contribute 97 cents. Solves the money, right? So I think that's kind of the really things to say is like, it's not like you're not able to, it's more like, it's the most important thing is the first step to the saving.
And I love that. It is consistent with, there was a program in the US a couple of years ago that produced extraordinary research for young people who knew that someone was saving for their education. They were way more likely to attend if they knew there was a little nest egg. It didn't even have to be that much. Now, I don't know if we've got Canadian data here, but just the idea that it will become more possible for them because this account was started when they were 0, 1, maybe 2 years of age. Does that resonate for you?
Yes, there is a similar data actually in Ontario about 2.5 years ago when the Canadian government launched Canada Learning Bond pilot program. So in Ontario, there was a survey results coming out is for youth who have more than $500 saving in their RESP account or in any form of education savings account, they're 4 times more likely to go to post-secondary institution.
Wow. Now, there are a lot of differences regionally in this country, not only in terms of what education costs, but also what programs are available to people depending on where they live, what demographic they're in. How do you, go up to the 30,000-foot level and provide the education and encouragement for young people to seek out every single dollar they might be able to find in the form of a loan or a scholarship or a bursary?
So I think if you think about education, I think it's more investing in yourself. So there's a long-term return, there's short-term milestone you need to hit. So we're talking about is, based on the stats for people who have college or university education, right? They makes, 3 to 6 times more than the peers that without the post-secondary education. I think that's kind of the goal to starting with. The earning potential is higher. Now you need actually to do math to see, okay, well, in order to get there, right? How much that you afford to actually put yourself into to actually get the education. So going concept is very basically just like budgeting, saving, and investing. So this kind of fundamental financial literacy concept. This is exactly, you can use the same concept in your education. Kind of that's where we're starting with. Like there's jobs available in the future that with this much earning potential, to get there, you need actually borrow and invest right now. That's this math works out.
How do you engage on some of the preconceived notions about the supremacy of a traditional university education versus some of the extraordinary college programs or other schools that also allow you to use money from an RESP, ballet schools, culinary schools, all those sorts of things? Do you think there is a perception that university is the right way to go and anything other than that is just not the same?
We've heard the misunderstanding of the definition post-secondary education. I think post-secondary education include university, college program, and the trade schools. And then we're actually now promoting more people looking at the programs of the trade schools, which is a shorter program, costs less, but the earning potential right after school is actually higher or at par with college. But I think that's the myth actually we're trying to overcome when we go to the community, talk to the parents and the students to say, post-secondary is not just university. Sometimes it's better to actually go to trade school, especially given the labor shortage right now in Canada, right?
Yeah. I think for young people to have some awareness of even just the dollars that folks who have tangible skills are able to make versus other, university educated individuals who chose to study something in which the economy wasn't demanding those skills. It's a difference. And not to say that you shouldn't study those things, but there can be a real difference in terms of the salary that you can command.
For sure.
Leen, I wish we had the whole day to talk. Thank you for giving us some time to talk about your focus on post-secondary education and a bit of a primer on the Wealthsimple Foundation.
Thank you, Bruce. It has been a pleasure.
Leen Li is the chair of the Wealthsimple Foundation. She was here to talk about post-secondary education, some of the barriers, but also some of the opportunities for young people to fund that particular path.